Welcome back to Life with the Spectrum. I'm your host, Gina Cavalli, and for the next few weeks, I thought we would talk a little bit about ABA therapy and then how that transitions into life coaching a little bit later on for our neurotypical friends. With me today, Ashley Hamilton, BCBA, who happened to work with Lyric so many years ago. Hi, Ashley. How you doing?
I'm doing great. How are you, Gina? It's so good to see you.
I know. It's nice to see you again, too. And I'll see you at the upcoming Autism Walk, too.
You sure will. I'll be there.
Ashley, I kind of want to address the elephant in the room, so to speak, first and foremost, because I understand ABA is kind of getting a bad rap these days. Care to share why that might be? Because it helped my family so much.
I know. It's sad to hear. But I think a lot of people have had different experiences, and I think it's just that they've had some different experiences from when ABA was run a little bit differently. These days we try to keep it really positive and ask for client assent, making sure that we are, getting parents, caregivers, and even the clients involved in the way that we program and pick goals for everyone.
Is that what assent means?
Yeah, so assent is pretty much like when somebody is demonstrating that they are consenting to what you're about to do. So if we say, hey, Johnny, come on over here, and they flop on the ground and they are laying there, they're not giving us their consent to come on over. So I'm not going to go over and grab their arm and drag them over.
No.
I'm going to wait until maybe they stand up now and give me that first step in coming on over to work with me. So that's what assent is.
We see more and more nowadays that kids are starting ABA therapy at a younger age. What's that all about? I thought that, kids should wait just a little while longer, one, for those behaviors to truly develop into poor behaviors or whatnot, but then also because a kid can't handle, like at 2, how do you address elopement issues? Because that's all a kid wants to do is run and play.
Right, absolutely, yeah. The research really shows that the earlier you're able to diagnose and get the person into treatment, the better outcomes you're going to receive. So we get diagnoses as early as 1.
What?
I know.
How is that possible?
I know. I think recently they just reached, I think it was Marcus who released a study on eye gaze in a group setting to be able to be one of the first early indicators on whether somebody may or may not be on the autism spectrum. And I think the important part is no matter if you're working with someone who is 1 year old, I'm not going to go ahead and set up the program like I would for maybe a 5-year-old. I'm going to make sure that there's lots of breaks and that person's not coming into having therapy 5 days a week, 8 hours a day. They're going to need a nap. And they're going to need to be able to really focus on the things that matter. And then similarly, if you're 2, you're probably tantruming a lot. And that may not be autism. That's probably just 2. We all hear the terrible 2s. So I think really just identifying what is regular, typical kid behavior versus what may be a little bit more in-depth that's related to autism.
So when we were going through ABA therapy, I know that parent training, it was crucial. It wasn't just crucial for Lyric. It was crucial for Brian and I to understand how when you guys weren't there in the house 8 hours a day, what we needed to be doing to continue following what we were, shown and what really got the results at the end of the day. How involved is parent training now compared to just 5 years ago when we were in ABA? Is it just as much important, or have you pulled back?
I think it might be even more important these days. I think the idea of parents sending a child to ABA therapy for 8 hours a day is a little bit intimidating. And so I think really a lot of times when we start out providing therapy, we start out with maybe a little bit of therapy and caregiver coaching to try to show parents that, hey, these principles that we're trying to apply here really do work. They will help your family. And a lot of insurance companies are requiring it as well. So whether it's 30 minutes a week, an hour a week, or if you do, once a month you go on a half day outing somewhere or something. I think it's super important to be able to translate and carry over those skills that we're teaching in session.
Sitting with me today, Ashley Hamilton, Lyrics BCBA from many years ago, still a BCBA today. We're going to find out what all these acronyms mean in the end. Hold on, stay with me.
Hi, I'm Lyric Gilmars. Thanks to our friends at
Welcome back to Life with the Spectrum. I'm your host, Gina Cavalli. With me today, Ashley Hamilton, the BCBA. All of these, we live in acronym city, right? So there's RBTs, there's BCBAs. What do both of those mean?
Yeah, that is such a common question. The field has so many acronyms. So if you're working with a BCBA that is using a lot of acronyms, just ask them. Do exactly what Gina did. Ask for answers because we forget sometimes. So RBT is Registered Behavior Technician. It is a technician that has training. They have to go through a 40-hour course and sit for an exam. They also have to have a high school diploma. And those are the people that you're going to see working day in and day out with your child. They are the doers or the implementers of the behavior plan.
And they're taking data.
Yes.
Data.
Yes, they're taking data all day long because ABA is a client outcomes and data-driven field. So it is super important that all of your technicians, your RBTs, are taking data so that we can see if things are progressing or if they're not. And then your BCBA, which is a board certified behavior analyst, again, that's what I am. That is someone who has a master's degree and they've sat for a board exam and they've done 2,000 hours of field work. And so this is the person that's going to be assessing your child and writing up the treatment plan in combination with you and picking goals in combination with you to be able to kind of enter in the target so that your technician has something to work on with your child.
And just a quick reminder to families who might be brand new to ABA or considering ABA, these goals and targets continuously change. So I remember when Lyric was first learning to brush his teeth and going and, here's visual aids. And then once we graduated that, we set a new goal. So BCBAs come out quite frequently if they're coming in home or at the center. And brings me to my next question. Which is better, Ashley? Because when we went through ABA therapy, the behaviors were really happening at home. We take Lyric out and about, and he's like an angel. But at home, it wasn't like that. So what is best for families, do you think?
Yeah, so it's going to be highly individualized. So if you have somebody who is struggling with social skills, maybe having them in a clinic setting where they have access to peers is going to be the best option. So a lot of times you'll see that while we are working with people to broaden social skills, we'll put them in those types of environments. Typically, it's easiest done in a clinic environment. However, sometimes you will go into a private daycare or maybe even like a library class where it's all about Legos. That's another great place for stimulating conversation. And then if you do happen to have someone who is simply needing to focus on behavior reduction, where they're just struggling with a few behaviors at home, maybe just in-home therapy is going to be enough. And you can consult with your BCBA to make that determination and figure out what's right for your family.
And let's talk about the 4 behaviors that all parents, the minute you hear them, you're going to know them.
Yes.
Typical or not typical, you're going to know them. So go ahead and explain the 4 parenting things and the 4 reasons we need it, really.
Yeah, so they're the functions of behavior. And this is the reason why people do what they do. There's 4 reasons. People do things to get attention. So attention's one of them, good, bad, or otherwise. They do it for attention. People do things for sensory needs. So maybe it's bouncing of a leg or tapping or spinning a pen or fidgeting. They do it because it sounds cool, feels cool, looks cool.
Wouldn't that also be considered stemming?
Yes. We frequently...
Because neurotypical people do that all the time.
All the time. Yep.
but they just don't know
They
it.
just don't know it. Absolutely. I was in a meeting the other day, just, taking my pen and kind of flipping it around. It was in onboarding, actually. And somebody was like, is that called stimming? And I was like, yes, that is just one form of it. And so people do it all the time. And then you have tangible or access. So we do something to get something or to get access to something. And then we do things to get out of doing them. So I don't want to do my homework, and so I'm going to just sit here and not listen to you. That is going to be functioning for a demand or getting out of doing something.
And as you start ABA, you will get all of this information straight up front so that you can start. And actually, you almost have to make a little mental note so that you can start thinking, what is he doing? What is she doing? Is it because this, or the, you kind of start going through the gamut. And then you're like, I give up. I need some help.
Yeah, no, and I think I love that you brought that up, because that is typically where behavior analysts are going to start. We don't usually provide behavior intervention strategies for behaviors. We provide them for the function of the behavior or why the person's doing it. So whether your child is hitting you or hitting themselves, it's going to depend on why they're hitting you or hitting themselves. And it might be two different interventions that get put in place. And that's usually where caregiver coaching starts. We're not going to jump in and try to teach you too challenging of a concept. We're going to start with the basics. If I can teach a caregiver how to identify why their child is doing what they're doing, then that just like opens up all the opportunities, and we can start to generalize some of the skills.
And what would you say about like parent grief? I mean, I think people have this misconception that in one session everything's going to be fine, and that's not really the case. And you have to set real goals. That's a real thing, right, Ashley?
It's such a real thing. And it's something that I think BCBAs have to remind themselves of all the time. A lot of times we aren't in that situation where we're the ones with the child on the spectrum. And so just, engaging in some perspective taking is going to be helpful for those situations. We do frequently have parents come in and they're going to, have their child who is completely nonverbal be talking in sentences. And we may have that same goal for them, but maybe that's a skill that we teach once we have the foundation built. And so I like to refer to it as kind of like a house. You're not going to put a roof on the house before you have the foundation built, and you're not going to put the studs up before you have the foundation built. And so it can take time to put the whole house together. And I think it's super important for parents to reach out and make sure that they have maybe their own therapy set up, that they can be able to start kind of working through that, because grief is real, and it's super, super important that you're able to have parent participation. And yeah, grief is real, and sometimes it's challenging to get started.
It's the hardest pill to swallow when you know that there's just really nothing that you can do outside of, I mean, what could you have done? How could you have prevented this to begin
Sure.
with? You know what I mean? So sitting with me today, Ashley Hamilton. She's a BCBA, and she was Lyric's BCBA. And when we get back, we're going to talk about what happens after ABA. Stay with me.
I'm Lyric Gillenwaters. Thanks for checking out this episode of Life with the Spectrum. If you subscribe to the channel, you'll always see the newest episodes when they come out.
Welcome back to Life with the Spectrum. I'm your host, Gina Cavalli. With me today, Ashley Hamilton, a BCBA. ABA, Applied Behavioral Analysis, is so big. It was such a game changer. I want to ask what happens, like when a child is released, but then let's say a couple years later, something comes into play. Maybe they go through some sort of PTSD with losing a parent, or pick a reason, any reason. Is it okay? Do people come back to ABA? Or is it once you're released, you're gone? Or what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think it, again, depends on the situation. But I think if somebody were to end up in the situation as you described, if they were discharged from an ABA provider, and caregivers had the skills necessary to be able to help, and then maybe one of them is no longer around, and some more support is needed, they can absolutely reach back out and get support support from either that same provider or a different provider. It's never one of those see you never kind of things once you're gone. But I do think that one of our main goals as behavior analysts is to teach the caregivers the skills needed so that y'all are able to do this stuff once we're done. And I think there's two paths you can kind of take. You can once you're reaching the end of your journey with an ABA provider, you are either going to have the skills necessary and or that child will be able to go into a school system without any further support needed, or your child may continue to need some support. And if that's the case, your ABA provider will either continue to work with that person or refer you to another ABA provider that is able to work with them.
It always surprised me that a lot of public schools don't allow ABA inside of them when it's so desperately needed on many different levels. And even to hire a BCBA and an RBT, one at each school, I know that might not be possible, but you know what I'm saying? It's kind of like a no-brainer. Like, why wouldn't you do that? Because so many kids need that, and so many kids need, even if you could only give an hour to a child every day at school, as opposed to maybe what they're getting when they're actually, insurance is covering it and they're getting 8 full hours a day like we did during the summers, for a couple years.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's something that I think the general education, public education and ABA it's something where you're, I guess it's not even just those two people. It's also the insurance funders. Insurance says that, the public education should be providing those services. Public education says that, oh, that's a medical service that your insurance should be covering. And so that is a real challenge. But I always encourage parents to reach out to what we call an advocate if needed to help navigate that kind of IEP system if you are looking into a general education placement.
What are your last and final thoughts, Ashley? Like, what would you tell parents who are just finding out about the diagnosis? I mean, obviously, we know early intervention is key, but like, what would you go on to give them what's a great success story for you?
Lyric is one of them. I think it's great.
Yeah.
I think that overall, it's okay to be scared. And it's okay to be scared because it's something that's new. And there are therapies out there that are evidence-based, that are kind. There are people that want to help you and want the best for your child. So I really encourage people to go into therapies with an open mind, make sure it's evidence-based. But people are there to support you. You just have to find your people.
And then I want to ask this question because I remember when Lyric was on and doing ABA, insurance was so wonky. And in many respects, insurance can still be wonky. I know that we've kind of moved past the days where you only get 20 visits in a calendar year and you're like, hello, 20 visits is eating up the first 20 weeks if your kid's going once a week. And with ABA, it's almost daily and for hours at a time. So how has insurance changed in just the last 5 years since we've been part of the ABA family?
Yeah, well, ABA is now covered in all 50 states, so that's like super cool. And I think we've just learned a lot more, and so have the insurance companies, about how effective ABA is. And so you do find more insurance funders actually covering ABA and being a little bit more realistic about it. Sometimes we still have to kind of go to bat and fight for the people that we're working with, but it's becoming easier to be able to secure hours because of how effective it is.
Is it because I remember that we had to put in a plan like Lyric needs 25 hours a week or 35 hours a week, and then they said yes or no, or maybe we'll meet you somewhere in the middle.
Right. So what I would encourage people to do is think of ABA as a medical service. This is a prescription, essentially. Your BCBA is prescribing what is necessary for your child or the person that you are looking or caring for to be able to make the most meaningful gains. And so, you need to, if you think about it that way, the insurance companies are also thinking about it that way. And it's going to be based on needs. So sometimes you're going to have where we recommend 40 hours a week every single week. And some you're going to have where you recommend 5 hours a week. And it's just, working on social skills to be able to fine tune those.
And the best part is if you do start extra young, we didn't. Lyric was in school at the point that we started ABA, but if you do start at 1, 2, 3 years old, these kids are not in school yet. So that 40 hours a week, it's like they are going to school or going to work because they are working so hard in ABA, aren't they?
They sure are. And I would encourage you guys, it should look like fun. It should not look like work when you are there. It should be fun and your child should be having a ball. And it's just cool because they can be having so much fun and still be learning. So that's what I love about ABA.
Well, I just adore you, Ashley Hamilton, BCBA to the oomph degree. Money is what I call you because you're so awesome. Thank you so much for being on the show.
Oh my gosh, thank you for having me. It was so much fun.
Ashley was part of our family for about 3 years when she was our BCBA, and I highly recommend that at least you look into applied behavioral analysis. Find out if your insurance covers it. Find out how many hours you can get out of it where it's fully covered or how much you have left to meet your deductible. But it did help. And, to know that they're starting kids younger and younger means that they can go off to school and be productive learners because they might not have those bad behaviors that would prevent them from moving on grade level after grade level. So I appreciate you stopping by each and every week. And until next week, we live life with the spectrum. See ya.
Bye.